Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Mass Debate. If you've not heard of me before, my name is Clinton Matos. I'm filling in for Robin. He is overseas. Very lucky. Wish I was him, but I'm not. And joining me today is Brendyn.
Hello.
And Louis.
Hey, guys.
Can I just point out, sorry, because Robin is not here. Nobody said howdy. So finally, the copyright infringement is over.
At long last, the saga has ended.
Oh my God, I feel like I'm jumping into the deep end here. You guys have got in jokes and everything. Oh my God. The problem of the guest presenter. But we are going to talk about something that's also the realm of copyright problems and stuff like that. AI in video games. So I think a lot of people are quite familiar with AI in just about every other part of daily life. It seems every day there's a new company saying, we're putting AI in everything. We're putting AI in the bread. We're putting AI in the water. Anything that can have AI in it, we're putting AI in it. But we're going to talk about something that's very near and dear to all our hearts, and that's video games. So I think we're going to start with just our general feelings about all of it. Brendyn, what do you think about AI in video games?
So I think we need to be clear about what we talk about when we say AI in video games, because I think a lot of people may think of AI in video games as like the computer that you play against. To be clear, what we're talking about here is the use of AI-generated images, AI-generated code, AI-generated like scripts. So I think that's what we're going to center around, just to clarify for our listeners.
Yeah, sure. I think that was a bit of a mistake on my part. I think it is no. It is more common when you're talking about video games. People usually think of enemy AI, like what does the enemy do when you shoot them? If you take cover, what does the enemy do? Or you talk about NPCs, like if I put them on top of a mountain, what AI can they use to walk back down to the bottom of the mountain without flying and stuff like that? We're talking more about the large language model, generative AI, stuff like that.
Yeah. So to me, I think that it is a minefield of discussion. I think of late we've seen a lot. And when I say a lot, I think I'm being a little bit reserved in my assessment here of layoffs as regards video game developers. And that's across studios. So I think there are a lot of fears within the video game industry around how AI can be used to kind of replace humans. We'll get into this, obviously, as we go through this discussion. But I think that that's one of the big fears at the moment that is potentially holding back development as regards AI in the video game production process. I think that there are like with most things, there are some good, there are some bad. Like if we look at somebody like Electronic Arts, right, EA, nobody's really
definition of bad.
Yeah, nobody's really counting on them to use artificial intelligence in an ethical way. But if you look at some like a smaller developer like Arrowhead with Helldivers, like I think their AI could possibly be a net good. But we'll discuss this and maybe Louis will change my mind.
Yeah, that's a good segue. Thank you, Brendyn. Louis, tell me your overall thoughts before we get into the meat of the conversation here.
So, in the corporate space, I mean, we read a lot about AI. Obviously, we're tech journalists and stuff. We read a lot about companies, like Clinton said, it's in the bread, it's in the water. The reason why all these companies are bringing out AI stuff is because it looks good for their stakeholders and for their stocks, and they make money off these things, even though maybe it's not as good as they say it is. And I think that is a little bit different for the gaming industry. And I think something that Brendyn alluded to is that it's kind of levels. The stages are a bit different. The big giant corporations will be using AI differently to their, to 1-2 people studios. You know what I mean? The people who make games in their mother's basement, can use AI differently to the giant corporations. And I think the consequences of both of these things are different. And I think in some cases there are definitely arguments for the use of AI. Which obviously we'll get into. But I think there's so many like negatives to it as well. So many things that you might not even consider when you want to start using AI. Things like copyright infringement is a big one. We mentioned that, and just there's also something about the whole. Video games are art. I don't think that's a debate at this point.
Yes.
Some people will say no, they're not. And I think Robin and I had a conversation about that last time we were in the office. We were like, I was like, video games are art, and he said, no, they're not, because it's kind of like a product. Is video games not art because it's a product? It's made to be sold. It's made to make money. But you can argue that indeed it's art, especially recent games, classics, and like in the past, the BioShocks and the Last of Us's, and these games that really made an impact and really made people feel things. And you can even say like just very design wise, video game design is an art form. It doesn't have to be the storyline or things like that, but I can keep going. But the use of AI has the potential, and I can expand this later on when we get into the mass debating part. It has the potential to kind of make this argument that video games is art even less, less so, because it has the potential to kind of make video games something that's mass produced. The Big Mac of video games. Even though there's an argument that you can say that that's already happening in some spaces, but I think AI will kind of double this, triple this. So as something I think AI has its uses in game development, but I think overall we need to be very careful of how we use it.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then, and I can get your guys' opinion on this. Before a game is even made, right? You need an idea, you need a core thesis, you need game design documents and all of that. So I'm going to start with you again, Brendyn. We don't have a game. We have done zero programming and zero art yet. What do you think about using AI to come up with the core idea of the game? What do you think about going to ChatGPT and saying, give me the outline of a game? Give me the original design document. So I'm going into this game design process without even that core idea for making something. What do you think about using it at this ideation stage?
Oh, so I think that there are some benefits to using AI there. And I think that one of those benefits is that if you're a smaller developer, you may not have the resources to conduct a huge market research sort of exercise, right?
Sure.
You might want to create a first-person shooter, let's say. And
but sorry, Brendyn, just to cut you off there. What if you don't even know you want to make a first-person shooter? You don't even have that little inkling of an idea to go off. You are literally going in with zero and expecting AI to come up with the entire idea.
Okay, so I think their AI does have some benefits, purely because of the fact that a lot of artificial intelligence platforms are trained off of a wealth of data, and we can split hairs about how recent that data is, depending on which chatbot you're using or which platform you're using. But let's assume that you are using a subscribed version of one of the big chatbots, one of the big AI platforms, rather, and it's got the most recent data to draw off of. You could use an AI to kind of give you an idea of what sort of games are popular, what sort of games generate the best user sentiment, which sorts of games, what genre of games gets the most positive reviews from people. There's a lot of ways that AI can help you formulate an idea. Will it give you the original idea that you need to make a stellar game? Probably not, if we're honest. But purely because of the fact that the blessing is the curse in this instance, where AI is just going to spit out whatever is the most popular game, right? So now that is Helldivers by all metrics at this current stage that we're recording this podcast. So if you were to take AI and ask it to build a game, it could say, well, make a game that's a third-person shooter where you have two types of enemies. Players just cycle through player characters. It could describe Helldivers. You make that game and you launch it, and it's terrible because it's based off of just one thing. So
I think, not to put words in your mouth, but I think the way you're coming at it is asking the AI to set you up for the highest amount of success by saying, don't just give me an idea for a game. Give me an idea for a game that's going to give me the most users, the most amount of money. Am I correct in assuming that from your discussion? Sure.
That's where I'm going.
Sure. So, Louis, let me ask you the same question. And again, just to reiterate the question, we have done in our theoretical game here. There's a theoretical company. They are in the business of making games, and they are coming to AI. Day one, zero work done. Give us the entire idea for the game. What do you think of that happening?
Okay, so when Valve, when they split off from Microsoft and they started hiring people, they actually all they knew was that they wanted to make a game, right?
Yeah.
Before they even made Half-Life, and the game kind of formed organically through the development. I don't think development is done like that anymore. Nowadays, usually developers will have like at least a kernel of an idea.
Yeah.
I think the problem with that is that Valve, it was an artistic process from the beginning. They were like, okay, we have to make a game. That's all they knew. We have to make a game, like you say. But there wasn't AI at that time, so they were like, okay, let's start, working. Let's start programming. Okay, we have this engine, and now let's start making art. Let's start, doing concept art, and let's start doing this, and let's start doing that. And it was an artistic process from the beginning, and it organically became Half-Life. If you just sit down and go to ChatGPT and say, give me an idea for a game that's going to be successful and it's going to make all this money and it's going to do all these things, that I guess it's possible that process could be limited in a way. Could you imagine if that artistic process that led to Half-Life was automated and to the point where it's because the problem is that these chatbots also use a large database of already existing things.
Yes.
And there is like a danger for something novel, something really new to emerge from the process of video game design to be completely not new anymore if it's just an idea you get from AI. I hope I'm making my point in this.
No, I understand you. I understand you. Going off of what you said, I want to throw a bit of a curveball at you guys. So, in the past, if you wanted to make a first-person shooter game, you would make some art or whatever. You'd make the whole game. You'd put it out. People would immediately call you a Doom clone, right? Because Doom basically it didn't invent first-person shooters, but it kind of revolutionized it and made it popular, right? So. I'll come back to AI. Just bear with me in this little example here. Let's say there's a team of developers or an indie dev or whatever. They're really inspired by Helldivers. They make a third-person shooter that borrows from Helldivers, but is completely its own thing. And we won't get into the specifics of this example, but I just want to ask you guys, what is the difference? Now, this is a deep question that's like at the core of the AI conversation. What is the difference between someone being inspired by the work that exists, inspired by Helldivers 1 and 2, inspired by Starship Troopers, inspired by X, Y, and Z, right? What is the difference between internalizing inspiration and using that to create new content, and then AI doing that artificially to suggest, okay, you should make this game a third-person shooter? What is the difference there, and what is the danger in saying, oh, this isn't inspiration, it's straight copying? Brendyn, I want to start with you. What is the difference there? Do you think there's a difference? And how insidious is it that an AI could kind of, not illegally, but it could look at the headlines and it could say, Helldivers 2 is the most popular game, you should make a third-person shooter, and somebody earnestly believing, I love this game, I'm going to make my own version?
So I think the important thing there is inspiration versus like straight up copying, right?
Sure.
So I could look at Helldivers and I could say, well, this is just Outriders, but with some differences, because it's a third-person shooter. There's loot involved. There's upgrades involved. I'm on an alien planet. Like I could draw comparisons between those two games very easily. Just like I could draw comparisons between Outriders and Mass Effect. So, like, I think the key thing here is making sure that ultimately the decision rests with the human, right? Is that you can't say that, oh, well, AI gave us this idea, we just followed what the AI told us, therefore we're not liable for copyright infringement. I think that there's still the ownership that needs to happen as regards artificial intelligence. Is that we as humans, we pass off this stuff to an AI and think, well, it's just an AI. And whatever it does is not copyright infringement, because I think, like a lot of these companies, I know Microsoft, it said to companies that if you get into legal trouble for using ChatGPT or Bing Chat or Copilot or whatever it's called today, they'll cover your legal fees, right? But I think that when it comes to copyright infringement, the human still has the idea. As far as inspiration goes, I don't know if an AI can really be inspired by something. Like to say, well, this draws from this. It is just regurgitating information at the end of the day.
Yeah.
These things.
Well, again, I don't want to. I'm not part of the argument here, but I just want to. At some point, you come down to semantics, right? Is a human being creating a new piece of art not just, again, not to use a horrible word, that regurgitating what they've experienced in their whole lives to create a new piece of art? So I don't want to argue semantics or anything. I just want to point out that sometimes inspiration and quote unquote borrowing can be much closer than you think.
Yeah.
And again, this is the problem with AI. It's we have to have these hard conversations about the semantics of the words here.
Yeah, so I think that in terms of inspiration, like, I think that if you're using AI in a sense of, oh, well, I'm just not going to think for myself, I'm just going to ask an AI and then go, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. I think we're going to run into problems, because to me, that's just laziness and an incorrect use of AI. Like, I think AI needs to be used as a tool. So if it comes up with an idea to say third-person shooter, like, you need to adapt off of that. You can't just take the idea that, oh, we're going to build a third-person shooter that is Helldivers 2, and it's going to be exactly like Helldivers, and we're going to make billions. We're going to print money. Because, I just that's a very bad way to approach anything. It's like saying, oh, I'm going to sit down to write a book, and the only book I've ever read is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like, that's just a bad idea. And I think that if you are basing everything off of AI, that's the wrong way to go about doing it. We should be looking at AI as a tool that we add to the toolkit as game developers, and go, right, well, we want to build this game. How can we make it special? How can we make it unique? What are some common things that we can avoid, common mistakes? So I think as a tool for inspiration, maybe not, but as a tool for research and for fine-tuning your research, I think that AI has some benefit in that regard.
Sure. Louis, let me get your opinion here. Is there a fundamental difference between an AI regurgitating all the info it's picked up and a human being enjoying art and then being inspired by that art to make something new? Do you think there's a fundamental difference?
So, yeah, obviously one is like, I think the most fundamental difference is the complexity of the two processes. Obviously, the human brain is an enormously complex process that we still don't really understand. While generative AI and large language models are like a very small kind of mirror image of that process. You can argue that the human mind also is a massive database that pulls from, basically little strands of data and regurgitates information, which is the same thing that chatbots do, but in a larger scale. We were talking about semantics. You can make that argument. So I think that it's not in that it's not the same. Is that it's not the same in that the processes the scale is different.
Sure.
And you mentioned video games as a taking inspiration. What's the difference between inspiration and copying? The video game industry in general is just one big thing of I'm copying my friend's homework over there. From the beginning. Every fighting game ever made is a copy of the original Street Fighter. And to the point where even popular games like Virtua Fighter and stuff, they literally just took the code and just changed it slightly. You can argue that all first-person shooters originate from Doom, and it's still using the same kind of gameplay loop.
Sure.
Any game that uses a narrative in any way, we talked about Half-Life, is inspired by Half-Life in some way, in shape or form, how to do narrative. And, this is kind of just normal of art, of the way humans do art. They kind of iterate on things, and they copy things, and they make it new in certain ways. Taking an idea, changing the setting, changing a few things slightly, and making it different is how we got StarCraft out of the Dune 2 RTS. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's basically the same game. It's different in the ways that count. And I think that's important when you're thinking about this kind of stuff. The ways that count. Will an AI be able to tell you the ways that count, or is that something you have to know because of experience, your time in the industry, the things you like, the things you enjoy? I don't know. I think that it's a difficult question. I think the processes of AI and the way that humans think are similar in certain ways. I don't think AI at this point is in any way capable of matching that process. I don't think the end product, if you use AI from the beginning to do this kind of stuff, will be the same as if a person does it. But I may be wrong. This is uncharted territory. I don't think there's ever been a game yet that has gone super popular that has been made with, I don't know, 60% of it is AI made. Even like that.
Sure. So let me get to the next stage of game development, and I'm going to ask you guys a very kind of complex question. So let's say we have our idea of this, this theoretical game, right? Doesn't matter if the idea came from a human or AI. Let's put that aside for 1 sec. Let's say we have this idea, full steam ahead. We have some kind of funding. We're going to make this game, right? When it comes to making the game, I think the two main parts people think about in game development, and I know it's more complicated than this, but this is just a discussion. You have the programming side, and we have the artistic side, the actual art that you're going to see, right? I'm going to inject a bit of bias into this question. It seems that people are more accepting of not plagiarism, but borrowing snippets and reusing snippets, and even sometimes outright copying when it comes to coding. It is just a prevalent feeling in the industry, in every industry, not just games. Programming is a culture built up of borrowing and using for free. Stack Overflow and similar sites are entirely based on this concept, right? Even for multi-billion-dollar companies, there is this culture of use whatever you want, contribute whatever you want, right? But in the world of art, it's completely different. If you want to make something, you have to start from scratch and make it all yourself. That even before the talk of AI happened, there was this differing ideology in terms of programming and art. Now that AI has come in and we're making this theoretical game, what do you think about using AI in programming? What do you think about using AI in art? Should there be a difference? And should we even consider the past, dogma about, yes, it's okay to borrow, no, it's okay to borrow? Brendyn, what do you think about those two facets of video game design? The code and the art.
Okay, so I think let's look at the code first, because as you mentioned, like sites like Stack Overflow have been made as popular as they are because there's this sort of sharing economy within developers, right? As you mentioned. So I think that has sort of helped artificial intelligence and large language models up until now. But as we've seen over the years, there's been this kind of lockdown from sites like Reddit and Twitter, where they've locked down their API so that folks like OpenAI can't just scrape these services and use the knowledge base. I think that using AI to code a whole game is a really silly move on the part of any developer, purely based on the fact that you're not going to get things right. Number one, we know that AI is prone to hallucinations and making mistakes. So I think that just ends up being more trouble than it's worth, right? So I think that if you're coding your entire game on AI, that becomes problematic. But I do think that it can help in terms of lessening the load, right? So if you have to create a whole bunch of scripts for, I don't know, movement, let's say, you could hand that over to an AI and have it do that while you work on something else. So I think that in terms of using it as a tool to augment the capabilities of a developer or programmer are where AI is heading towards. So there's a really great video that was put up by the Harvard Business Review it's titled AI Won't Replace Humans, but Humans with AI Will Replace Humans Without AI. And basically this posits that rather than AI replacing humans, humans should be trying to use AI to improve their own work, right? So for instance, here at Hypertext, we might use ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever to help find a headline that is more that people are more likely to click on. We could use it to help change our wording. Of course, this really depends on the data that the AI is given, which, sorry to get a bit long in the tooth here, but we're starting to see more business solutions as regards AI, moving away from just the ChatGPT, what should I have for dinner? Please write this history essay for me. We're now starting to see businesses kind of craft their own artificial intelligence and their own solutions on that artificial intelligence. So, for instance, Fujitsu this week announced an AI tool that helps detect network problems, which is really useful, and it's a time-consuming task for telecommunications companies. And now you can offload that to artificial intelligence. You still need the human to action what the artificial intelligence tells you and to determine what's right and what's wrong with the assessment that it gives you, but it just augments things a little bit more. When this comes into video games, I think that if you have an AI that is trained on like the past video games you've made, or on something like Stack Overflow, or like the different coding languages, I think their AI has a benefit of being able to help a programmer and a developer by saying, well, you're using this here when it would be easier to use this here. And then the human can look at that and go, yeah, well, this is a good idea, I'll action it, or no, this is rubbish, I can throw it away. So I think that there is value to AI in terms of the development and programming side. However, when it comes to art, this is where I have to kind of side on the opposite here, because the problem with this is that a lot of art that AI is generating now is stolen, right? Or allegedly stolen. Sorry, let me just say allegedly stolen. And artists, and that's not good, right? And unfortunately, these companies don't want to pay for the AI that they are producing, or the work that they're using to train their AI, because that would be really costly, and they're already tied up with the hundreds and hundreds of NVIDIA GPUs that they need to train this stuff. So the idea that they would pay artists and train artists, or pay artists to use their work to train AI, is a bit laughable at this stage, and I say that rather grimly because they should be paying artists for it. If you're using AI to generate art in your video game and models, I think if you use it cleverly, that might work if you have like permission from the artist whose work you're using. But I think that right now that is an ethical landmine in terms of using AI to generate art in a video game, or just art in general. That is it's a landmine, right? There's no easy way to approach that, because unfortunately things like Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, they've been trained with art that they didn't have rights to use, allegedly. And that creates a problem, because now you are replacing humans. You could have hired those artists to do your art for you, but instead you just used a free version of ChatGPT or Stable Diffusion or whatever it may be, DALL-E, Midjourney, whatever platform you want to put into that X part there. So I think that it depends how you are using it, obviously, and I think this demands a conversation around ethics with AI, because I think that we're kind of getting to a point where the technology is outpacing not even just legislation, but just society as a whole. Like, we need to have a conversation about copyright and proper use of things, proper crediting, proper licensing, all these things, and we just haven't. And that concerns me about AI, is the pace at which we are developing is way too fast for us to have a conversation about things, and that's wrong. That's a bad way to approach anything in life. And I wish that there was more of a conversation around this. I mean, we have Sora, the video generation from OpenAI that launched like just a week ago, and that sent shivers down my spine seeing that, because like, you don't need a video editor, a videographer, cameras, all that equipment anymore, which leaves lots of people without work. So when it comes to arts and video games, I don't agree that I don't think AI has a place in there yet. But with programming and developing, I think that there are some benefits to it. And that concludes my massive statement.
Louis, give us your opinion. Art, programming, is there a difference when it comes to video games and the use of AI?
I think the first difference is that the way the companies around this situation kind of see it. So, in January, Valve started letting developers who use AI to make games put their games on Steam, on the Steam marketplace. And one of the things they said is, if you are going to if you want your game to be on Steam, on the marketplace, and you use AI tools, you need to like say, where did you use AI, for which images, and for which for what assets. Literally, they say which assets did you use to AI tools to generate. And the reason they do this is because they want to make sure that they understand which pieces of which games could be infringing on copyrights. It's about what parts are owned by third parties. That's the only way that you'll get your game on Steam if you use AI, is if you tell them, we're using this tree is AI, this rock is AI generated. Things like that are a little bit easier, artistic wise, to get across than this painting is AI generated. These characters are AI generated, and that's why there are software now that does that for you. So the reason why you'd use AI in video games is because it saves you time, right?
Yeah.
That's the main reason. It's and it saves you time, and it kind of patches over your lack of skills.
Yeah.
Making video games is a tough job. It's not easy to make games. You can make a game, but to make a good one is difficult, right? And it's a time-consuming, difficult process, and that's why people are using AI, especially if you just, like I said, you're doing it by yourself. There are software out there that will generate doodads for you. They'll generate trees and rocks and little castles and whatever you want, stuff like that. And that's easier to kind of explain to Valve than these characters are AI generated, because maybe that will have some implications about a copyright infringement. Or Valve can look at your assets and say, actually, this is too similar to Genshin Impact or whatever. These waifus are too similar, whatever. But so that's something to take into consideration, the copyright stuff, as Brendyn mentioned. And I think that going forward, that'll be the main thing around AI use in video games. The problem with that is that AI is so kind of married to copyright infringement that it's, at this point, there is nothing happening, and there's nothing we can do to kind of make sure that this is not a problem in the future, or something that's done responsibly. Also in January, OpenAI, obviously the people who made ChatGPT, they talked to the UK House of Lords, the Communications and Digital Committee, and they basically told them, guys, if we didn't infringe on copyrights, if we didn't steal people's stuff, AI would not work. Our AI would not work at all. Basically, it would be, they would say, an interesting experiment. Basically, something that couldn't help people.
See, for me, that is a problem right there. Because if your whole business is based off of stealing other people's content so that you can make money, your business is theft. right?
Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be impartial here, but let's break the mask for a second. That is an insane thing to say. Imagine telling a police officer that my catalytic converter business wouldn't work if I couldn't steal catalytic converters. Well, of course. We're calling a chicken here. That's not a business. That's just theft. That's I was hoping we were going to talk about that because that's one of the most insane things that someone has said with a straight face.
Yeah, I think that if your justification, like if it comes to a court and they say, well, this AI game is generated using copyrighted material, I don't think any judge in the world is going to look at that and go, yeah, well, you were allowed to do it because you wouldn't have been able to make money otherwise. It's exactly your catalytic converter thing, Clinton, example, is that like you can't have an instance where your whole business is based off of theft and then go, oh, well, without the theft, I wouldn't have a business and you should feel bad for me. No, absolutely not. And it goes back to the ethics conversation that I was having earlier. We really, really, really need to have that conversation because while it might not be illegal to use somebody's content and generate something that's inspired, quote unquote, by that content, it's highly unethical. And we live in a world that's kind of governed by ethics nowadays, in my opinion, at least.
So I think the reason why OpenAI was able to just bluntly say this, and the reason why they haven't been punished for it, is because so many people believe that ChatGPT is useful, and they continue to make use of it. And to kind of stop them from doing this would negatively affect those people. And that's the only reason why ChatGPT is able to continue doing what it's doing, basically stealing people's information, people's data, taking things from the internet that don't belong to them without any compensation. So I think that's going to continue for as long as these chatbots and basically the generative AI is useful. That's going to continue. I think definitely we're still in the early phases of like Brendyn said, the ethics and getting government legislation but I mean right now it's so early in that sense. And it's really not great that the governments around the world are moving so slow on these things while the actual technology is just exploding in uses. And you talked about the video generating thing from OpenAI. I mean, it's so leaps and bounds better than what was the latest thing before that. Stable Diffusion had a video generating thing and people were like, wow, man, this is the craziest thing. It generates 5-second clips. Oh my goodness! And the pictures don't even really move. And then ChatGPT just dropped this atomic bomb, basically.
Yeah.
And that's how it's gonna be. Every few years, there's gonna be another atomic bomb in this AI thing, and things are only gonna get so much better. And governments are moving so slow on these things. So we really have to do something about it.
What's interesting is this is, again, not to insert myself into the conversation here, but Pandora's box is opened. Even if the government came out tomorrow and said, we're not going to outright ban AI, but for every single piece of data that your company's trained on, you have to pay the artist or whoever came up with it. It wouldn't really matter because the core, the bones that was trained on the allegedly illegal obtained training data has already been trained. The box is open.
So I think kind of my last thing with this whole question, but the question was, what's the difference between using AI in video games for art and for programming, right?
Yes.
I think that it's still a very gray and murky area. You can use it for certain things, for certain pieces of art, for certain assets, and it'll be fine as long as the people you want to sell it through are okay with that. Like Valve. If Valve thinks that your game isn't too copyright infringing, they'll let you sell it. And that's the only difference with that. Valve, I guess they don't care about the programming aspect. They don't care about you using code. They don't care about using AI to program. Probably because, like Clinton said, that there's a whole already there's an existing culture about swapping code and interchanging this stuff. It's a very collaborative thing. There's no with art there's a certain degree of emotional attachment to art, and also financial attachment. With code, it's just letters on the screen. Maybe that's why. You can't say I've written a masterpiece code, even though I'm sure there are people who out there who have written pieces of code, but it's not something that's. Well, if you do that, you basically do it for all mankind because everyone's gonna take your pieces of your code.
Unless it's
While
the Nemesis system from that Warner Brothers created.
Oh no!
what's the Nemesis system now?
Oh,
Oh, you don't know this,
No,
Louis? Oh my
don't know
god!
it. What now? I have to know.
So it was Shadow of War or Mordor.
Okay. I do
Yeah.
know it.
So
Yeah.
it was that adversarial system, and it was so good that Warner Bros. Just copyrighted it, and nobody
I
could use
see.
a similar system. So
But that's like a game mechanic, I suppose.
yeah,
It's like it's code, but it's also it's voice acting and how it makes you feel, and it's stuff like that. And I guess I don't know if you can copyright just snippets of code. I'm sure you can. I'm sure Microsoft and the big tech companies have copyrighted certain parts of code and stuff, or they have it under like super secret vaults or whatever. But yeah, I think as long as it really is up to the companies that you want to sell your game through, because in the end it's a financial thing. Copyright is a whole financial thing. If you make a whole game and it's you're using assets from everywhere, but you're not making any money off of it, is it the same? Does it have the same?
Well, that's I mean, I can kind of answer this. There are laws for non-profit pieces of work. Like you can make like a super detailed piece of art of like Superman, and no one's going to come after you. But if you like print that onto a poster and try sell it, then DC
Right.
might be like, you can't do that. So there is definitely a line in the sand between doing something for free and for funsies, and you can give it away, compared to selling it. But then again, is there a line in the sand? Like, there's so many fan games that people make, and then Nintendo strikes them down, and that technically should fall under like a non-profit fan-made thing.
But I think that's just Nintendo's issue. Nintendo is crazy
That's
with
just
its
Nintendo
IP.
being Nintendo.
Yeah, they're absolutely insane with its IP. Yeah.
So let me move this theoretical conversation to the next phase. Let's say our game has the ideation stage, and now the game's been made. Draw the rest of the owl. The owl's been made. The game's been made, right? We have our game.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go into the next stage, which is marketing. Now, I want to talk about this as well because we technically are part of this kind of marketing machine. We are a news and reviews and lifestyle and tech website, but we are also involved in marketing. We have advertising on the website. I mean, that isn't taboo to say. That's how websites work. So we are technically part of the marketing machine. And then also we can bring this conversation into written text and how that is affected by ChatGPT and generative AI. So I want to ask you guys, what do you think about, we have this game, regardless if it was made with AI or it's 100% human, that doesn't matter. The game's done. We want to talk about, now that we have this game, we want to put it in the hands of as many people as possible. What do you think about using AI in advertising? And just keep in mind that advertising has not become the butt of a joke, but it's become so prevalent that most people don't really see any artistry in advertising. They see it as something irritating you have to watch before a YouTube video, before you get to the real video. They see it as something, on the side of the highway. Who really cares? I think the era of, like, not to bring up this example, because whenever you talk about advertising, people are like, oh, it's like Mad Men. Yeah, kind of. Advertising does have its own type of artistry and its own type of mystique that I don't really want to completely discount, but that's why I'm going to hand it over to you guys, and you guys can get in trouble with people like that. What do you think about now using AI in advertising? Again, going to start with you, Brendyn, and also just put a bit of a focus on the written word because that's what we're involved with. What do you think about AI in advertising of games?
So this is a tough one because I think that, like, if we're using AI for video games, then it stands to reason we should be using AI for advertising, right? Or for games, now we use it for advertising. But this is where I kind of go, are we going to lose jobs because of this? Are advertising execs going to lose jobs? Are the creatives of these adverts going to lose jobs? Are designers going to lose jobs? Or writers going to lose jobs? But then it just circles back to the point I made earlier about how, as humans and as professionals, we should be looking to leverage AI as a tool that helps improve what we're doing. So I think we've seen a couple of examples where AI is used in advertising, particularly by Wizards of the Coast, and they were called out
Ugh.
for it.
Yeah.
And then they denied it, and then they had to retract that denial because they found out that the freelancer they had used had actually used AI to kind of just augment the work that they were doing. And that just showcases the slippery slope that we're currently on because, once again, there's no ethics. So, as a freelance designer who's trying to make as much money as possible before the end of the month, it stands to reason that I would use AI to help move that process along a little bit faster. Should we be? Once again, that goes back to the ethics of it. But I do think that where AI can help is in the marketing and advertising scheme that you want to approach for your game, right? So if you are an indie developer and you've created, let's say you're Arrowhead Studios and you've created Helldivers 2. Your first game didn't really reach the successes that many people were hoping for within the studio, but you believe that you have a really good game on your hands, but you don't know how to market this game. So you could turn to an LLM, an artificial intelligence platform, and go, what are the best ways for me to market a video game? And if you're very basic in it, you're going to get basic answers back. But there's a really great video by Johannes Tyroller. I'm sorry if I pronounced that badly, but he's an indie developer who made like an hour long video about AI and video games and how it's possible right now for AI to make video games. However, something he highlights in that is that it's all about processes. In that, the creative process is just that. It's a process where you are doing a recursive feedback loop, even within your own brain, going, well, I like this, I don't like this, we'll adjust this, we'll adjust that. So if you really invest in artificial intelligence, I think it can be useful in terms of marketing. When it comes to reviews, though, I mean, this is where we now get onto an even slipperier slope, because if your game is using AI, then surely I can use AI to review your game, right? And that's a problem because even Johannes in this video that I mentioned earlier, he notes that AI doesn't really know how to play games. There are AI models that are able to play games like StarCraft, chess, Go, Dota 2, but these were very costly exercises in order to train these platforms. So it's not really worth it in a studio such as Arrowhead, which is like 100 people strong. It's not worth it for them to invest millions, potentially billions, into training an AI to play a game in progress. And I mean, even for us as a small publication here in South Africa, like it wouldn't be worth it for us to create an AI that just plays a game for us and then generates a review. Could that happen in future? Potentially, right? You could have somebody like Microsoft go, well, we want to give people the best idea of what a game is like. So we train an AI to play the game, and it plays the game for 100 hours or whatever, and it generates a review, an unbiased, in quotation marks, review about the game, and that could help with marketing in that aspect. But I don't know if in terms of like marketing the game, like actually marketing it using AI to play the game, to get a form an opinion about that game, I don't think we're there yet. That could change in 12 months' time. So to just wrap up, in terms of advertising, I think that AI has a place if you use it as an iterative tool, as part of a process of developing an AI, a marketing strategy for your game. But when it comes to like in terms of writing and written words and reviews and actually playing the game, I think that's still very much the realm of humans. And in addition to that, I don't know if AI can have an opinion. I don't think it's capable of having an opinion because, I mean, it can take a whole bunch of data points, but can it formulate its own unique opinion about something? like we do on this podcast, I don't know.
Louis, what do you think about that?
So I have a few points. First is that using AI tools for advertising, it really depends, or rather the outcome of that depends on who you are as a person. Are you a one person studio trying to get your game out there? Which in that case, I imagine nowadays people use AI extensively for advertising. I mean, I imagine people use AI to write social media posts because you have to do a lot of social media posts if you want to advertise on social media. And it's time consuming, it's tedious, and you have to really think about it. And if you don't have a background in writing or communication, that could be an issue, especially if you're just a programmer guy. So you would use that. You would use that for advertising. But if you and then I think the outcome, or rather the gains from that, would start to peter out the larger you are as a kind of an entity. I imagine that Blizzard and these big companies aren't using AI that much for advertising because it doesn't mean as much. Maybe they're doing it a little bit on the side here and there for some social media posts, or their social media guy is doing it, but in the end, it like I said, it just doesn't work out as much. You would use, if you plan like a large. Okay, here's an example. Do you guys remember when Snoop Dogg said on Twitter he was gonna stop smoking?
I'm giving up smoke.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
giving
giving
us
up
smoke?
smoke.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everyone went crazy. And after like a week, it was revealed it's actually an advert for a smokeless barbecue thing or whatever. Right?
Oh my God.
That was huge. That did big numbers for a company no one has ever heard about. All of a sudden, everyone knows a company. That was not done by AI. That was a thing that was planned by people, and it was successful because it was smart, right? AI can't do that yet.
No.
Not yet. Maybe, like Brendyn said, in the next few years, we'll kind of reach those levels. But right now, AI as a tool, it's still very basic in what it can do. So in the end, that's basically it for AI and advertising. It depends on who you are.
So
Okay.
I think that what AI is really bad at is determining gray areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of the responses that you will get from an artificial intelligence are yes or no. They're very black and white in what they generate to you. But we know that the world is not black and white. It's shades of gray. So like that Snoop Dogg example is a really great example of that, because like it was the initial statement that he was giving up smoke generated conversation, because I mean it's Snoop Dogg. He's known for smoking the devil's lettuce. It's like it's part of his brand, right? So
Right.
everyone knows intrinsically who Snoop Dogg is. Even if you don't listen to his music, chances are good that in your life you have come across something referencing the rapper. But an AI, if it were to take that, it would be like, I'm giving up smoke. And then the announcement would have been, I am actually no longer smoking marijuana, because it's black and white. The kind of switch around is something that I think only humans can do in terms of our creativity. So in this instance, AI could say, oh, you could say that Snoop Dogg is giving up marijuana. And then you use that as your jumping off point to kind of formulate your marketing campaign. So I tend to agree with Louis in that we're not at a point where AI can just come up with this hugely wondrous ad campaign all on its own. And I think that, as much as I hate to admit this, a lot of advertising is still driven by emotion, and it plays on people's emotions.
All advertising is driven off emotion.
Fair, yeah, good correction there. And AI just isn't at that point. Yes, Louis.
So yeah, basically that. In the end, it just depends on what you use it, on who you are, what do you want to use it for. Like you said, advertising is driven by emotions. The outcomes of a big, giant, interesting ad campaign is not the same as, a few posts on social media. But as a tool to help you, I've had people talk to me and tell me that they use ChatGPT for a lot of their marketing, especially if they're just a one-person team. In that sense, there's nothing wrong with it, I don't think, to help you in your day-to-day. to help make you more money to run your business. I don't think that's an issue. I've never really thought that was an issue. I know it's mostly anti-AI, but yeah.
So that's actually how I want to conclude this conversation, because I think we've mentioned it several times throughout the talk. I want to talk about ethics and the size of your corporation, right? Again, this is something both of you have brought up several times. Do you think it is more ethical for a small company or an individual to use AI to quote unquote cut corners compared to a big company using AI? Do you think the size of your company and the available cash you have on offer to, achieve your goals allows you to bend ethics in terms of using AI? Brendyn, what do you think about that statement?
I mean,
not to put words in your mouth, but I think both of you have kind of revealed your answer as we've been talking. But now I want to just point blank ask you that question.
So, it's a very tricky question, because, if I say it's fine to use AI no matter what size, I'm doing a disservice to. I think we first need to determine what is a big company, right? So, to my mind, a big company is somebody like Blizzard, EA, Ubisoft, right? So I think that those are big companies, so to speak, where somebody like Hello Games or Arrowhead Studios or anyone within the Devolver, under the Devolver umbrella, I think those qualify as smaller developers. We can split hairs about the Devolver thing another time, ladies and gentlemen. But I think generally those are the smaller companies. But is it okay for a smaller company to use AI to cut corners? I think to an extent, yes. Purely because of the fact that they're a small one or two man corporation. But then I look at somebody like Pirate Software, who is a developer who creates games by himself with a small team, like literally him, an artist and a musician. So that's a 3-person team, and they managed to create some really, really awesome experiences without the use of AI. Yeah. I think the key thing here is that if you are looking to get into making video games and you are purely going to leverage AI, you should not be making video games. It's the same as me going, well, I have no clue how to fix a car, but I want to be a mechanic. Well, I'd have to learn initially. I'd have to learn something about cars at the very least in order to open a garage for people to come and service their cars. And if I did know nothing, that would be hugely unethical of me, because one, I don't know how to price things. I don't know how to do anything because it's not in my knowledge sphere. So I think that if you are using AI as a tool, that's the key here, is using it as a tool. And I think that goes for big companies as well. If they are using it as a tool rather than leveraging it as their main source of inspiration for development, for art, all that sort of stuff. I mean, there's no way for us to know if a programmer at Blizzard optimized their code using AI. There's no way for us to know that, right? Unless we sit down with a person or the person tells us point blank. But we can see when somebody is using AI art, or when something is using assets from another store, right? Like the Unity storefront or whichever platform you're using. Like you could be using pre-made assets, and nobody seems to have an issue there. So I kind of group it in the same thing as AI. If you're using AI in an ethical way, I don't think there's a difference between big and small companies. But when you are making it, well, this whole game was developed by AI, I think that's where things become problematic, where you're now eliminating the humans completely, and you're just using artificial intelligence and technology to build your game. And in that aspect, I think that's wrong, and you shouldn't even be making video games in that aspect or in that sense, especially if you have no knowledge So I think that AI has a benefit in terms of being used by big and small companies alike, but it boils down to how that is used and how it is applied and the ethical nature around that.
Louis, does the size of your company give you carte blanche to ethically use AI?
So I don't think it's the size of the company. I think it's the size of the corner that you're looking to cut, right?
Okay.
For example, Ubisoft last year one of the biggest gaming people in the world. They make some of the biggest games in the world. They make a lot of money. They in fact made the first ever quadruple A game.
Boo.
In not Sea of Thieves. What's the name of that game?
Skull and Bones. It's so
Skull and
good. We can't
Bones.
even remember the name.
It's so good. It's quadruple A. So I'll tell you guys, and I've spoken to Brendyn about this, but I'm not the biggest fan of Ubisoft games. This is my personal preference. Yeah, whatever. I know they have some really talented people at the studios. You can see, with the stuff that they do. But when they announced last year that they were going to use a generative AI language model, natural language processing model, to come up with the short ambient dialogue barks of the people in their games. So, for example, these are if your characters walk into a town, the barks would be random NPCs saying, "Oh, hey, John, what are you doing?" Just the random things that the NPCs say. They said they're going to use a LLM to generate these barks, basically, so that the writers don't have to come up with a million short phrases that kind of just add context and just make the world feel a bit more full, right?
Yeah.
This is a massive studio who's saying they're gonna do this. In fact, the AI program they're gonna use is called Ghostwriter, and they're gonna give it.
Oh my god! Could
Yeah,
you be any more on the nose?
Well, that's Ubisoft, baby, and they're gonna give it to their writers, and the writers can now basically cut their time of work by using the Ghostwriter. And in their announcement, they were like, we don't want crunch. We're going to use Ghostwriter to limit the amount of crunch that our writers have to do. And in that sense, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That's fine, Ubisoft, whatever. But then immediately I think, man, if I can't believe Ubisoft games are going to get less interesting. You know what I mean? and like what Brendyn said about that thing where it's like, if you want to cut corners for games so much, you shouldn't really make games, because it's about passion, right? It's an art form. With something like this, I mean, come on, what do you mean one of the biggest gaming companies in the world is going to cut this corner? Surely you should love to write barks. Surely that should be your thing, right? I imagine the people at From Software love to, Miyazaki loves making swamps. Yeah. That's because he loves.
He's on record in saying he loves swamps. That's
Exactly.
not even like a meme in the community anymore.
Could you imagine he's sitting at a table just or at his laptop, and he's typing up the variables for how much poison you're gonna get if you walk in the swamp, and I imagine he's having the time of his life. That's the kind of thing you should want when you're making games, that you love it, you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's a problem with AI. If you start, it's slippery slope. You start replacing these processes. You're making games less art. You're making them more a conveyor belt, right? You start with something like barks. You end up replacing your environmental artists with AI. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
These are people that should love to do environments, and when you can tell when a company puts their love into every aspect of the game because the game is the better for it, right? Mm-hmm. And Ubisoft have that issue because they love money. Why is Ubisoft doing it? Because they love money.
And I mean, if you don't have somebody writing like the barks for NPCs, that means you don't have to pay them. If you don't have to have a voice actor recording those barks for NPCs, you don't need to pay the voice actor, which means that you can cut budget in areas. And
exactly.
Overall, that's a net bad. I don't care what you say. If you're spending less money and time on your game, that's a bad thing. Right? I mean, I don't think anybody has ever played a Dark Souls game and gone, wow, this is incredibly soulless and repetitive.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever said that, because the team working on those games loves every aspect. Like, one of the things I used to love about Destiny 2, note the use of used, was that everybody who worked at that developer was passionate about the game. And whenever there was something like as basic as a new emblem, which is not even that important in the game, but when there was a new one, the artist would hop on Twitter and go, damn, look at this. I made this. I'm so proud of this. It took me a week to do it, 100 iterations, and I am so proud of this. Like, that's what I love about video games. I
Exactly.
love seeing the people that work on them going, well, I'm so proud of this work that I've done. I'm I just want to do more of it. And that's what I love about video games, is that the game is cool. Yeah, sure. but it's the humans that are working on it that are sharing their experiences in as obscure as they might be by helping build these worlds that we spend hundreds of hours of our lives in.
Right? So in the end, gaming is a human process. It's a human art form. And AI has the potential to reduce that and maybe even remove that entirely in who knows how long.
You guys are supposed to be debating. What the hell's going on here?
I mean, I think that's just I think that's the nature of the beast here, is that it's such a new technology, and it's such a mess at the moment that like trying to argue one way or the other is very difficult, because like I mentioned earlier, it's shades of gray. Like like I said, I might think that it's fine for you to use AI in your programming, but somebody else might think that it's hugely unethical, especially as somebody who's a developer who's spent thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours honing their craft, and I'm just waving it off like, oh, well, it's fine for them to do that.
Yeah. And I just want to add something here before we end. I don't think an AI could have written, I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow in the knee. And it's very apropos that we're talking about that, because that is, in the scope of things, that's a throwaway line, right? A writer came up with that. I don't want to dismiss their work, but it probably didn't take them very long. They weren't up at night speaking to an editor being like, oh, should we change this word? They probably came up with it very fast, but it was still a piece of human work, and it became popular because of its human connection. That's funny, right? And the fact that they keep repeating it, that it all leads to intentional and unintentional comedy. Now, you could say, oh, if we had these writers, we have a set amount of writers working for a set amount of time. If we take away the burden that they have to make these parks, they can work on more important parts of the game's dialogue and story and everything. Sure, but then we wouldn't have parts like I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow in the knee. That's why it's so important that we have the human element doing that part of the game. And then you could even get into the programming. Maybe the reason why so many gods repeat that and it became a meme is because the programmers had a lot of work to do, and they cut a little bit of a corner by just having these NPCs keep saying arrow in the knee, arrow in the knee, arrow in the knee. So it was a combination of, it was a good piece of writing, and because of the way the game was programmed, which maybe wasn't the most, labor intensive, it was done to save time. These two combinations, these two pieces combined to make, an iconic part of gaming history. So could an AI ever do that? Right now, I don't think so. And that's kind of the heart of this conversation here, is that, is AI good for gaming? Is AI bad for gaming? It seems right now it's leaning in one way or the other, but it depends on your view of all of this. I think all the the executives who want to please shareholders will say, oh, it's the best thing ever. But then the people on the ground will say it's the worst thing ever. And then if you go to the person on the streets, what do they think? Well, we can't get everyone on the streets. We can only have the 3 people here. And I think we have, even with the 3 of us here, we have conflicting emotions and thoughts about all of this.
Yeah.
So am I picking a winner? Whose line is it anyway style? The points don't matter. Everything's made up.
The winner is AI.
Probably.
Oh, the third from the top rope. Oh my god. It would be great if we could say that our entire script and everything was AI. Man, that would be mind blowing. We could just lie. we could just outright lie. Like, oh, listen, this has actually all been AI, and our voices have been synthesized. But no, we won't do that. I'm willing. I'm the moderator. AI wins. Sorry, all of us.
Yeah. Oh well.
This is what I expected, and I watched the Animatrix. I know how this goes. I know how the AI situation ends. I'll just let you guys know that I'm getting ready for it.
Yeah.
If anyone hasn't watched the Animatrix, people should really watch it. It's the second best Matrix.
Yeah, I agree.
I think a lot of people don't do that. They're like, what's your favorite Matrix?
One of the things in the Animatrix that I keep thinking about with this AI thing is that in the beginning, when human invent AI and they have robots or whatever, it's very sci-fi. But there's this throwaway line that they say is that eventually the AI started producing better products than what the humans could produce. And
yeah, that was
people-
again in the Animatrix. They made like floating cars,
Right.
and we were still running around on wheels. It's like, oh, I guess we have to buy
but
floating
the
cars from the
AI
robots.
the AI started selling these products to people, right? So
Yes,
in the end, it's people who led to their own downfall, right?
yeah,
They started buying the products from AI, and when I saw that the video producing thing, I was like, could you imagine if in a few years AI produces better movies than what humans can produce? Eventually, human art will suffer because of it. You know, it'll get less and less and less and less and less because of the capitalist world we live in. The money will flow towards AI away from humans. So yeah, that's definitely a doomsday scenario that's in my mind. Hopefully, it never gets to that point.
Just to tie a bow on all of this, it's a lot of people have said this, and I do just want to repeat it. Is that when the idea of AI came up, I think everybody envisioned we're going to have robots walking around. The robots are going to do the manual labor. They're going to do the bad jobs that we don't want to do. And we're going to live in like a halcyon where we can just sit around and enjoy ourselves. And you can do whatever you want. You can spend 20 hours every day learning to play the guitar. Or you can spend 20 hours every day lying on your back and doing nothing. But the present is the opposite, where we have AI doing the art and humans are still doing the hard work. What the hell, guys? This what is the complete opposite of what we're supposed to have. So, yeah, I mean, that's the unfortunate part of reality. If you wrote a piece of fiction 20 years ago saying AI now makes all the art and we're still in the fields and the mines, people would be like, oh, that seems a little silly. But man, after COVID, in every disaster movie, what happens is that there's a big humanitarian crisis and then humanity bands together and stops it. And then COVID happened and the exact opposite happened. You just can't predict this. But we're getting a bit off course. I'm going to wrap up here. I've been the moderator, but I want to get one last thought from Brendyn, one last thought from Lou, and we'll wrap up because this was a very long conversation. Brendyn, AI and video games, your final thoughts?
I think that it is. I think that it's inevitable that we will have AI in every aspect of our lives. Like you said at the top, it's in the bread, it's in the water. And I think that the most important aspect of this is that we as a society, not to be grandiose about it, but we as a society need to have a real earnest conversation around how we use AI and what we are going to use it for, more importantly. I don't know when that conversation is going to happen, but hopefully it happens sooner rather than later. Yeah, I think that it all boils down to ethics, and unfortunately, some people are going to take a chance. Some people are going to use it in an ethical way. How we use it is ultimately up to the user.
Louis, final thought on all of this?
Yeah, like what Brendyn said, AI is here to stay. I think, at least in some ways, as a tool. There's nothing we can really do to stop it because of all of all how useful it is in so many different facets. The government needs to really pull up its socks all around the world, not just in South Africa, but to do something to make sure that AI isn't abused, which it is being abused currently in a lot of different ways. But yeah, other than that, in video games, as a tool, I think if you need it, to kind of save you time and to save you or to like help you with certain lack of skills in certain departments, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think if you're a multi-million-dollar corporation and you use AI to cut certain things, there's a problem with you could impact jobs. You could also, in the end, you could make the art form of video games less important. You could return it to something that it shouldn't be, and I think that's a problem in the end. And I don't know how we're gonna stop that from happening. Obviously, because like I said, it's so useful in saving time and saving money, which is so important for these big giant corporations.
Yeah. And just to end with one more little dour piece of news about all of this, I think we talked about it right at the top, saying that there's so many layoffs happening in the game industry specifically. And it's crazy because you'd think that these companies are saving money with AI, that there'd be more money for the workers. But no, it's just more money for the CEOs' bonuses. And that's where I'm going to end it. That's going to be my last word, and no one else can overrule me. This has been Mass Debate. I've been Clinton. There's also been Brendyn.
Cheerio.
And there's also been Louis.
Howdy.
And none of us are AI right now. You can take that to the bank. Tune in next week. Maybe we will be. We're real boys, promise. Bye, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.